It's 1918. For 4 terrible years, more than 40 countries have been mired in the bloodshed of the biggest conflict so far known to man. Countries across Europe were caught up in the conflagration, but Africa too was drawn into what was truly a world war, a conflict that changed the African continent forever. This is the story of the First World War told from the African perspective. More than 2 million Africans were killed between 1914 and 1918, both civilians and soldiers. Many were forced to fight for their colonial masters. France recruited more Africans than any other colonial power, sending 450,000 troops from West and North Africa to fight on the front line in Europe against the Germans. African troops were also deployed on the continent of Africa itself. France still commemorates the Senegalese infantry who helped to seize the German colony of Togo. The British also fought alongside African troops against the Germans until 1918. Africans served as scouts, porters and cooks. Germany also exploited Africa. Thousands were forced into military service in Tanzania, the former German East Africa. That meant labour shortages in the fields and there was widespread starvation. The economy collapsed. Around 1 million people died in Eastern Africa as a result. The First World War changed the map of Africa. Germany's defeat meant the loss of its colonies. German East Africa, German Cameroon, Togo and German Southwest Africa were all taken over by the victors as trophies of war. Consequences are still being felt today. In Cameroon, for example, the former colony was divided between Britain and France, with the French getting more than 4/5 of the land. After the end of colonial rule in 1960, the divided country was reunified, but by no means peacefully. The English-speaking minority felt abandoned by the central government. Rebels are still fighting for their own homeland, and there are deaths nearly every day. Namibia, once German Southwest Africa, was not divided but placed under the control of the League of Nations. An independent country was supposed to emerge with the help of South Africa. But the South African government had other ideas and seized control just 2 years after the end of the war. South Africa imposed its apartheid regime on Namibia and oppressed the black population until Namibian independence in 1990. The First World War cost millions of African lives, both during the conflict itself and in the years that followed. Germany's defeat led to the redrawing of borders. Colonial power changed hands. The result? Seismic changes that are still today at the root of conflicts in many regions of Africa. For many Africans, the end of the First World War did not bring hope for liberation. Decades would have to pass, and another world war would have to be fought before the decolonization of Africa could finally be celebrated.